Who else used to watch every single episode of every single season of The Biggest Loser? In my household growing up, it seemed like it was just something that was on in the background. And it was so inspiring and so motivating to see these people separating from their lives, putting themselves in this group to just focus on themselves, to lose weight and save themselves and extend their lifespan and feel better about their own lives. And it was like they were achieving this thing that me, my mom, nobody else in our family could figure out how to achieve. And that was so motivating to watch. And the part that we were not paying attention to, especially in the earlier seasons, is that almost every single one of these people gained the weight back. Some of them, it seemed like, quicker than they even lost it. This episode is going to be about everything that The Biggest Loser did right, everything that The Biggest Loser got wrong that led to people gaining the weight back, and the reason why this is such an impactful episode to listen to, and you should grab a piece of paper and some notes to write some things down, is because you're going to leave with some actionable steps that you can take to make your weight loss journey actually sustainable so that you don't fall for the same trap that the contestants on The Biggest Loser fell for. Before we get into it, shout out to everyone on The Biggest Loser and any of the participants that might be listening to this show. Congratulations and thank you for putting yourself out there and letting us witness you in this journey. I know it was so vulnerable, and just watching the way that y'all suffered and the way that y'all really went to war with yourselves was something that was inspiring. Even if you are one of the contestants that gained the weight back, you had a massive positive impact on the world by letting us see your journey. So thank you. If it's your first time here, my name is Nick. I lost 110 pounds in 2019 after losing and gaining back 60 plus pounds for 7 years in a row on every single diet you, me, or anyone on planet Earth has ever heard of, including the Biggest Loser approach of over-exercising and drastically cutting my calories. In 2019, I put obesity behind me for good by curing my fat mind, addressing my relationship with food, and healing at the root cause of these issues from the inside out instead of the outside in. Let's go ahead and dive right into it, because sustainable weight loss is possible, which Bob Harper does not seem to believe is true. The first issue with the show is the word sustainability was never mentioned. And that is just, can you recall one time, especially even in the documentary, the word sustainability never came up, ever. No one even said it. So right off the bat, nobody's even focusing on keeping the weight off from the get-go. They're thinking that they're going to lose weight on this show, and then they're going to go and figure out how to keep the weight off once they get home. And this is just a trap that's so easy to fall for. Everyone listening to this has probably fallen to that to some degree. I'm going to go keto, and I'm going to figure out how to keep it off once I hit my weight loss goal, or I'm going to do this thing that isn't actually aligned with how I want to live in the long run, and then I'm going to make this transition into sustainability. That's not actually how identity change and lifestyle change works. The way it works is you got to get clear on how you want to live in the long run, and then bring that into the present tense. Now, here's the reason why the show didn't do that. Because it's a TV show. And it was built for entertainment. And did the show have a lot of negative impact? Yes. Did the show have some positive impact as well? Absolutely. Yes, it did. The intention of the show is to make money. And everyone knew that, including the contestants going on. You know, that this recurring theme that came up on the show, and this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, everything that I'm speaking from is not to, this isn't about feeling good listening to this. This is about actually getting really radically honest with yourself. So this is just coming from the lens of taking ownership over your life and really getting in the driver's seat and changing so that you really can put obesity behind you. But the whole theme of the documentary was the show's the problem, the show's the problem, the show's the problem. And was the show a problem? Yeah, in a lot of ways it was. But I don't think that the show was the problem. I think that the show was a result of a problem that already existed in society. The problem that already existed was you, me, and everybody else that was watching it had more of a desire to lose weight than we did to be a healthy person. So the show fed off of that. And if that desire wasn't there with me and you, we would have never watched the show in the first place, and then the show would have never blown up enough to become the problem that it was. So the show is not the problem. We are the problem. The contestants going on to the show knew what they were getting into. The first season, maybe not exactly, but after that, they knew what they were getting into, and they took that risk knowingly. And it was so fascinating to me, because I'm watching this documentary and going, man, everyone's, the show really fucked up my mindset. The show really fucked up my relationship with food. All of these people had fucked up relationships with food and mindsets before they went on the show. And I just, purely from love, again, if you're one of the contestants listening to this, I'm sure there's truth here for you. And this is purely just coming from a place of me wanting you to feel in control of your own life And I was disappointed in watching the documentary that there wasn't a single contestant, and we love all of most of them seem really awesome, right? We love the contestants that were in the documentary, especially, but there really wasn't a single person that really seemed to have taken responsibility. That really said, like, regardless of whether or not this is my fault, this is my responsibility, and I'm committed to figuring this out. And not in those words, but also not in that energy. That wasn't the vibe of even one of the people, maybe besides the lady that stayed in touch with Bob Harper and then ran a marathon and all that. But even she seemed to still be kind of struggling with her weight. But she did take more responsibility than the other contestants, which I thought was amazing. This victimhood and this victim mentality that so many of us have, the show's the problem. For me, it's the way I grew up is the problem. My mom's the problem because she, raised me in this fat household. My dad's the problem because he wasn't around and I didn't have any male role model growing up. And, I was a scholarship kid at a rich school, but I grew up on food stamps and all the kids' parents donated to my scholarship. And I was ostracized, and that was the problem. Whoever put me in that school was the problem, and the other kids were the problem. And it wasn't until I just went, yeah, fuck, what is it going to look like to take radical responsibility of my life? That things really changed for me. And I wish that I would have seen more of that in the documentary with the contestants. I would have really liked to see that. The word sustainability was never used. And because of that, it wasn't taken into account that the way you lose weight dictates the sustainability of the results. Should this show have been about sustainable weight loss, you and I wouldn't have liked to watch it because it's not entertaining to watch people lose 2 to 3 pounds a week, or maybe a little more in the beginning because of water weight. And it would have taken multiple years for these people to hit their weight loss goal. And we would not have been bought in because our attention spans are so short. And we would rather watch somebody lose 25 pounds in early weeks than 3 to 4. Again, is the show the problem, or are we the problem? Right? Would we rather live healthy lives or lose weight as quickly as possible? And that's different person to person, but I think most of the time it's us. And the show is just a mirror and a reflection to our desires and our priorities that are not straight, which is what led to us being fat in the first place. And that can be hard to accept that, but really find the truth in that for yourself. The third thing is the focus was solely on the scale. There was, when we think about, especially early on, to have a successful weight loss journey, you need to have some early wins with cravings, with relationship with food noise, meaning like obsessiveness and constantly thinking about it. And there wasn't really mention of that. The show did these kind of like craving challenges, but it was just a thing for TV where they'd like have people put bread in their mouth and then do these ridiculous stunts that had nothing to do with weight loss. It was just TV. It was like Fear Factor, weight loss Fear Factor is kind of the vibe of that, right? But there wasn't ever really a mention of like, how are your cravings? What is your relationship with food like? What role does food play in your life? And because this language was never used and these questions were never asked, and the reason why these questions were never asked was because the people that were leading the show were 2 personal trainers and a doctor that knew a lot about weight loss. And that was it, but not a lot about actually root cause healing or the mind. And that's really clear even when you watch the documentary, right? So the show wasn't actually set up for people to put obesity behind them. They would have needed some therapists or some people that had done it that could speak to their relationship to food and their mindset. But the show didn't do that, again, because the entertainment value wouldn't have really been there the same way. So it makes sense, right? And we wish that the show would have done that. But again, we might not have watched it. And it would have been interesting to see a conversation between Julian or Bob or the doctor on like, what kind of foods are you craving? When are you craving them? Here are some things that we can do. Because the reality is that the things that they would have had to do to stop having the cravings would have stopped them from losing weight as quickly as they would, and then they would have been kicked off the show. So because the focus was not on relationship with food, mindset, cravings, what do you want, when do you want it, why do you want it, what does it feel like when you eat that, how can we build some wins of you not just being disciplined enough to say no, how can we create a life for you where you don't have the same cravings the way that you are, would require them to eat 3 meals and not be in such a deep calorie deficit. The show, it didn't really dive into how the contestants got overweight in the first place. When we think about healing obesity from the inside out, meaning living a lifestyle where people don't believe you when you tell them that you were fat, unless you pull your loose skin out the way I am on video right now, or they see old pictures, right? Meaning that your habits are not one of a fat person. You're not halving buns or, getting Caesar salads with the light dressing and asking the waiter or the waitress how many calories are in the light Caesar dressing with the double chicken that you don't even like that kind of shit, right? That's the kind of stuff we see on The Biggest Loser. To really put that behind you, you have to get clear on how you got to this place. Meaning that, when is the first time you remember being fat? When is the first time that you dieted? What happened? What did you try? Did you quit? Yes, clearly. Why did you quit? What about it wasn't sustainable? When's the first time you used food for more than what food was intended to be used for? What emotion were you garnering from that? And what emotion were you hiding from? What was the specific situation? Where were you? What did you eat? What were you wearing? How old were you? What did you need at that time? The reality is the show would have really benefited from having some therapists, specifically some IFS or some parts work therapists or some somatic therapists. The actual truth is that, should me or you or any of these contestants feel fully safe in our full range of emotions, meaning negativity, stress, self-doubt, self-hatred, anger, boredom, anxiety, if we felt safe in all of those emotions, we would have never eaten them in the first place. And that's trauma, because when we were kids, we didn't have that safety provided for us to feel or express negative emotions. So we turned to, most of us, food or something else that developed into food over time. And the fact that this sort of conversation that you and I are having right now was never brought up on the show is why nobody actually put obesity behind them, because it's not sexy to talk about that. Sustainable weight loss is not particularly a sexy thing, and it's not great for TV. Right? It's great for like following, your favorite weight loss influencer on Instagram that, loses weight over the course of multiple years and following them through their hardship. That's very different than tuning into a show every week for an hour. We wouldn't want to watch it, and without getting clear on how they got to this place, we cannot address the issues at the root. We cannot provide for ourselves the things that we needed to get out of the patterns that we've been existing in our entire lives of turning to food to either feel or not feel specific ways, which every single person on that show, every single person that is constantly restarting diets all the time, is dealing with an issue that is very close to or specifically exactly that issue. Every single one. There's no exception to that rule. There's no exception. If you're somebody that's restarting your diet all the time and you're losing weight and gaining it back the way that I was my whole life, right? Totally makes sense. Normal to a lot of people. That is an issue with your relationship with food, which is indicative of your relationship with yourself. And no amount of excessively exercising or dieting is going to result in permanent change. And again, not a popular opinion, sustainable weight loss isn't particularly possible. And that's why I'm here screaming from the rooftop, please commit to sustainability. Please commit to changing from the inside out. Please, my fucking God, the world needs it. I want to watch you in it so bad. And it's so much better than you could ever imagine. Sustainable weight loss is so much better than food can ever taste, but you're so wired right now to get off on the dopamine of bullshit, like scrolling on your phone, which same, right? That's a lot of people, and eating and other bad habits that you can't get out of the cycle. And every time that you try, you just fall right back into it because we don't have a plan or a step-by-step process that's actually focused on sustainability and really actually root cause healing. And it sucks. And then we turn to The Biggest Loser and go, well, I look at how happy they look. They're all fucked up now. Like all of them. It's not what you want. Most of us have already lived The Biggest Loser, just not on the show. I lived The Biggest Loser for half of my fucking life, and it sucked. And these people had the balls to do it on TV. And now other people don't even recognize them because they gained all the weight back. And that sucks. And you could feel the shame in what a lot of these people have gone through. The lady that had gone to the police academy and then had her people, or she had her sergeant or captain or whatever, have her get on the scale in front of all the guys. That fucking sucks. It sucks. The guy, I can't remember his name, the kind of farm-like guy, really amazing seeming human being, like is just documenting himself gaining the weight back. And I don't know why I'm gaining the weight back. I don't know why. It's been a couple years. I weigh more than I did when I got on the show. I don't know why. He would really benefit from hearing this, but it's just not popular. And until you commit to actually healing from the inside out with a process that helps you with your mindset, relationship with food, and root cause, you're just going to be stuck in the same fucking cycle forever. And it's like, that's so negative to say, but you have to be radically honest with yourself. There is no other way. No diet is going to change the way you feel about yourself. No diet is going to result in permanent weight loss ever unless you stay on the diet. Think about how crazy that is, right? So these people are eating 800 calories a day, and then they're coming home and then they're trying to keep eating 800 calories a day. And they're realizing that they can't. So they never actually learned how to eat healthy foods in healthy portion sizes. And they also never learned how to eat bullshit foods in not crazy portion sizes either. So then that leads to them just back in this cycle of binging. Oh my God, the show's the problem. The show's not the problem. The problem is that you were eating 800 calories a day and that your desire for fame was more than your desire to keep the weight off. It was. It's like when you look at something that came up from you when I was watching the show was, would these people rather be famous or healthy? Like when you really sit with that, we're watching these people pimp themselves out to get on the show. You know, we're watching even the guy that I really liked, like so amazing. He's like pimping out his wife and his kids. You know, my husband, so he really needs your help. You know, my dad's. It's like, God damn. Like, if the amount of effort that these people put into getting on the show was put into changing who they are as people over time instead of so quick, they would have never needed to be on the show in the first place. Right? And this is what the show really fed off of, is our desire to lose weight is higher than our desire to put obesity behind you. But for these specific people, and a lot of us, I mean, I've never had the opportunity to go on The Biggest Loser, but I would have had I had the opportunity. I never applied, right? It's like at that time, my desire to be on a TV show would have been higher than my desire to put obesity behind me. So I don't fault these people, but it's worth noting the best quote of the entire show, I can't remember the lady, the African-American lady, towards the end. She said, she left the show. Her and Bob Harper were going at it. And she said, I did not come on The Biggest Loser to be on a TV show. I came on The Biggest Loser to become a healthy person. And I went, oh my God. Oh my, that was the quote of the whole show. That was the one, if you take away one thing from the documentary, let it be the energy of that lady. That's the energy that you need to actually put obesity behind you. In the end, she ended up taking Ozempic. I don't fault her for that. These people have been dealing with it for their whole lives, right? But that is the energy that you actually need to truly put it behind you. I'm not here to get skinny. I'm not here to get famous. I don't give a fuck about this TV show. I'm here to actually put obesity behind me for good. And I thought that was so, so, so beautifully spoken. One of the biggest issues with the show is that it didn't put the contestants in the driver's seat of their own experience. It was very, my way or the highway. And because it was The Biggest Loser way or the highway, that's what led to people saying the show's the problem. I'm a victim. The show fucked me up. Should the contestants have been invited to get clear on how they want to live in the long run and then practice living like that at that time, they wouldn't have lost weight as fast. And again, we wouldn't have liked watching it, but they would have put obesity behind them and had a much higher probability of doing so. But that would not have been the show being in the driver's seat. The show will not lead somebody to sustainable weight loss. The show could have provided a structure for people to lead themselves to sustainable weight loss, which is actually a requirement for putting obesity behind you. There's some things that the show did really well. When we think about the impact that this TV show had on the world, it got people talking about weight loss. And at that time, it's like, when somebody's fat, when you're fat. It's one of those things where, like, when people tell you that you should lose weight, and you're like, what the fuck do you think that I shouldn't lose weight? Like, do you think I'm so delusional that I look in the mirror and think that I'm a healthy person and I'm 100-something pounds overweight, my gut's hanging out over my belt, and I'm like down in Tums like they're Skittles every day? Like, I know there's a problem, right? There aren't a lot of people that are delusional enough to not know there's a problem when they're 100 pounds overweight and constantly restarting. But it's like the show made it much more front of mind for a lot of people, and the show represented possibility. I, on my weight loss journey, thought about The Biggest Loser regularly. And I thought about the times when, Julian and Bob Harper were screaming at these people's faces. And even though that was a lot of that was TV, and it's a lot of this eat less, move more, just do it, like weight loss is a Nike commercial, there's something to being able to tap into that energy and that frequency of just doing it when you don't want to, that you do need to know how to flex. Like, you do have to be able to white knuckle through some hard times. You can't white knuckle the whole journey of weight loss, but being able to tap into that every once in a while, a day a week or a day a month, is very serving to you because that just do it energy is just, sometimes you're just not going to want to. It's when you're on the journey, sometimes you're just not going to want to. When you put it behind you the right way, your habits are so ingrained that the idea of not taking care of yourself isn't even a question or a thought. And it wouldn't be a question or thought of mine if I didn't record this podcast, right? Because now I'm constantly questioning, diving back into my mind and how I got to this place. And it's like, but without that, I don't question my health at all. Outside of this show and my coaching and my content, I don't ever question, should I be taking a healthy, should I be doing a healthy thing? Should I eat this bullshit food, less of it, or eat this healthy food, more of it? It's like, I just eat healthy foods unless there's a reason not to. I move my body every day, regardless of how I feel, regardless of my headache. And because of that, I feel better after I do it. I drink water, regardless of whether or not I'm thirsty, because I know healthy people drink water. I meditate even when I don't want to because I feel better after I meditate and have more clarity on who I am, where I am, what I want, how I'm getting it, and how I'm doing. I talk to myself in the mirror every single day when I brush my teeth. I look at myself in the mirror naked every single day and find acceptance and love for my body, including the parts of myself that I don't want to. And it's like, that takes time. I show up for this podcast even when I don't want to record the podcast, and I love podcasting, but there's just some days when I'm like, I don't really want to record the podcast. And you just get to the point where it's like you just kind of do. And then you sit down and you start recording, like, oh, I'm glad I'm doing this. It's the motivation comes from doing the thing, not before doing the thing. And a lot of that energy I learned from watching shows like The Biggest Loser and watching people do things unsustainably. Worst quote of the entire show, the worst part of the documentary was fucking Bob Harper. I don't dislike Bob Harper, but I hate this show. I hate this quote is what I meant to say. He said, I'm going to butcher it. I had it written down, but I don't know where I put it. It was right here. It was something along the lines of, once you're overweight, that is a monkey that you will never get off of your back and will be with you forever. And if that quote does not perfectly sum up what The Biggest Loser is, I don't know what will. The idea of being coached by someone that even feels that to be 1% true is a waste of your fucking time, because weight loss and obesity is not this thing that needs to be on your back like a monkey for the rest of your life. You can actually put the issue behind you. The reason you don't hear about people putting the issue behind you is because most people don't, but when they do, there's still shame and guilt tied to the fact that they were fat, so they don't want to share their stories or how they did it. And that's like, I get it, right? It's like I sometimes still feel shame in how much of my life that I fucking wasted too. It's like, goddamn, would fucking Mary Kate have wanted to marry me when I was 22 and I'd already have kids and, be on with some other shit in my life? It's like, probably, right? But I'm happy that I'm doing this and I'm happy that I'm here, but there is still shame tied to that sometimes when I'm, on this show talking about how I was 25 years old and couldn't have sex. It's like that. There's shame in that, but people don't want to talk about it. So the stories aren't that relatable, and you can't really dive into what was going on in all of the parts of the fat mind because most people are not willing to share their story authentically in that way. And it's like, had somebody done that for me, it would have helped me out quite a bit. The issue is that I hired people like Bob, not literally screaming in my face, but people that were like, weight loss, obesity is this issue. You're going to be dealing with it forever. It's like, you're not. It's not. This is not alcoholism. Right? You're not once you're overweight, you're a fucking food addict forever. It's not like you're an alcoholic forever. You can actually heal this issue. And to bring it back to alcoholism, if you're an alcoholic, the way that we're looking at weight loss here and the truth about weight loss, though may not be the truth for alcoholism for most people, you can get to the point where you can have one drink and not have 10. You get to the point where you can have one drink once per week and not have one drink every single night. Alcohol is different because it's actually addicting in a way that food isn't, and there's withdrawals tied to it in a way that food doesn't. So they're not exactly comparable, but you can actually heal. And if you're somebody like me that has worked in different programs and with different coaches where they did not actually do it, there is always this underlying tone in those systems and in those people's containers that are like, just do it. You have to just do it. This is going to be how it is. You got to just find the motivation. And that's going to get you pretty far, but you're going to be stuck with the fat mind with the fat mind inside of a skinny body. And you're always going to come back to whatever you believe about yourself. So if you believe that you have this issue for life, then you do. And if you do not change that belief, then you will be at war with yourself forever, including after you hit your weight loss goal. And eventually you will lose the war. You need to cure your fat mind. There is no other way to actually you can put obesity behind you, but you'll still be battling. To experience the freedom that you're looking for, there is no other way. I hate that Bob Harper said that. I love what Bob Harper represented on the show, except for clearly is not informed on how to navigate other people's traumas. He's clearly has not been through any modalities of healing or therapy, and that's fine. That's not his thing. There's nothing wrong with that. He was like an LA celebrity fitness trainer, right? Up there doing like Pilates and yoga dances, and then got brought on and started having conversations with people about their mindset. And after all of those seasons on the show, he comes on the documentary and says, obesity is something you'll always be carrying with you forever. Obesity is not even the issue. Obesity is a result of an issue that already exists inside of us. So the whole frame of what he said is wrong. You might carry the issue that you had with you for a long time that might show up in other ways when you lose weight and put obesity behind you, it might then show up in this other way that you will work through and heal, and you'll continue to get closer to the root as you keep working on yourself. That's what spirituality is a lifelong journey of continuously coming to know yourself. It's not that one day you're going to be a monk and then just you're a Buddha and then just transcend the world. You're always going to be sitting here working on healing yourself until the day that you die and coming to know yourself more and more and more. But that's not a monkey on your back. Obesity is not the monkey on your back. The monkey on your back is something that you can end the war with, and you can actually make love to use Bob's example against him a little bit here. It's not you versus the monkey, it's you and the monkey, or the monkey is actually your child itself that was ignored, neglected, or had capital T trauma and horrible things happen to you. And had Bob Harper had some training on that, he would have been able to have conversations with people that would have expanded their awareness so that they could actually put obesity behind them, but he didn't. And it wouldn't have been sexy to have those conversations. People wouldn't have wanted to watch it or hear it, and people would have been triggered by it on mass television. But overarchingly, I would say, to recap all of this, the show is a result of a problem that already existed and still exists in many of us. Many of you listening to this right now, and that's okay, that's how it is, but it's not okay for it to be like that a year from now. The show was focused solely on hitting a number on the scale, not adopting a healthy lifestyle, which is probably one of the biggest problems on the show. The show never addressed mindset, root cause healing, or relationship with food, which is why all of the contestants gained the weight back, because they still had fat minds, fat identities, but in skinny bodies. The show never got clear on how the contestants wanted to live in the long run. So it was very their way or the highway, which led to them all drastically undereating and then feeling like they were victims of the show because of all the effort they put into this and the shame that they felt when they left because the show did not lead to sustainable results for them. Overall, I left the documentary feeling extremely uninspired. And I feel like most of you listening to this that watch the documentary probably felt really uninspired. Everyone gained the weight back. Well, fuck, like, why would I even try? And I really put myself in the mindset of when I was fat, if I was watching this documentary, how would I felt? And I went, why would I even try? And it wasn't until anyone that might be feeling that, I really invite you to consider here. It's not until you go, you know what? How many people on the show actually really put obesity behind them? A couple. Let's say 1 out of 100 people. It's not until you actually can say out loud, I'm choosing to be the one that does that you will put obesity behind you. And that's a choice, right? Like, yes, you need a system. Yes, you need a process. Yes, you need to adjust the parts of your life that we talk about on this podcast. But it really comes down to a choice. If you miss the choice piece in the beginning, the choice being, it doesn't matter what the odds are. I'm choosing this regardless of the odds. What a great opportunity for me to be the 1 out of 100. You're going to be spinning your wheels forever. Coming into it going, I don't know. A lot of people, everybody gains the weight back. I've been gaining the weight back my whole life, which is true, but also limiting belief. But yes, you have, right? It's not until you can actually articulate and look yourself in the mirror and say it until you actually believe it at least 1%. You have to have some belief in it. When you can say it so that other people believe it, that's the next level, but you have to believe it first. To be able to say, I'm choosing this, and at any cost, I am willing to work on myself, and I would rather be healthy living underneath a bridge than I would be fat and be on TV and be a celebrity and get endorsement deals. That is the level that you have to get at, because no amount of dieting is going to result in permanent change for those of you that have been losing weight and gaining it back your whole life. And the amount of effort that you need to put into this in the beginning so that you can make these habits default ways of thinking and default things of doing is a lot of input. And that input needs to come from a place of being 100% committed. If you're 99% committed to something, you will end up quitting. You'll always give yourself the out. If you're going on your weight loss journey and you lose some weight and then you keep your fat clothes, you will take that out. Because what if I gain it back? I don't want another wardrobe. You will gain the weight back. If you're too afraid to tell your family members or your friends or post on social media and say, hey, everyone, I've been losing weight and gaining it back 100 times in my whole life, and keep Monday restarting. But I just, I don't know. I'm doing it this time. I'm doing it this time. And I just want everyone to hear me, even though y'all probably don't believe me, that's fine. I believe myself, and I'm practicing believing myself, and I'm stepping into what this really looks like. If what comes up for you when I say that is, I don't want to share it online because what if I quit? You will quit. And that's, again, I know it's not a popular opinion, but you have to burn the boats for yourself. Any boat that's not burned, you will take back when things get hard. And to not give yourself the out and then meet that with actually doing it the right way, you will put obesity behind you. But if you have these little outs, you're the only one that knows about the outs that you have in the back of your mind. I could always just go back to this. If things don't work out, I could just take Ozempic. Again, nothing wrong with Ozempic for a lot of people, right? If things don't work out, I could just, I have that wardrobe. I could just go keto again. I'm not going to tell my friends because I don't want to deal with the embarrassment. It's like, that will happen. That will happen. Burn the boats. Make the active choice to become the one. Work on your mindset, your relationship with food, lifestyle changes over short-term quick fixes, and scale victories. So non-scale victories over scale victories. Get clear on the root cause of when you started eating this way and why, what you needed, and give it to yourself. Do that in a sequential order that makes sense for you, or with a process that makes sense for you, and you will put obesity behind you for good. Overarchingly, The Biggest Loser was very inspiring to me when I watched it, even though it didn't lead to permanent results for me. The documentary was very uninspiring for me, and I was disappointed. I was disappointed with a lot of the way that the documentary was shown, and I left it feeling very unempowered. And I don't think that documentary overarchingly was what's great for most people that watched it. But there are a lot of positive things that you can take out of it with this sort of mindset. You absolutely have what it takes to lose weight. But even deeper than that, because you already have, the same way everybody on The Biggest Loser did. We know that we can lose weight by eating less and moving more. You absolutely have what it takes to put obesity behind you for good. If you'd like for me to guide you on that journey, you can click the link in the description of this podcast episode or this YouTube video, and I'd be happy to speak to you about what that would look like. Thanks for being here, and we'll see y'all next week.